Hello to everybody just joining us now. Welcome, welcome one and all. We are going to give it just a couple of minutes, not even a minute, let's say, for folks to log in to the session, and then we shall begin. Please consider yourselves welcome today. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, while folks are coming in, I shall begin today by saying welcome everybody to today's webinar entitled Online Revenue Generating for Musicians. My name is Tressa Levasseur. My pronouns are she and her, and by way of a visual description, I am a middle-aged white woman with a fresh new bob and an orange dress in a room full of curtains, and hopefully my tiny little dog Penner will appear at some point during today's proceedings. Before we begin, let's all take a deep breath, shall we? And in this moment of taking a deep breath, let's remember that we're each and every one of us breathing the air from a very particular place on this planet, and that the place where we find ourselves breathing this air, the air that is shared by us all, is a specific spot with a very particular and unique history. It has had people living there for a very long time. It has had people who have come there seeking a new life. It has had people who have been brought there against their own will. And that in the acknowledgement of the land, we need to acknowledge in gratitude the traditional stewards of the territories upon which we find ourselves. I myself find myself on the territories of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe and the Adirondack people in what is colonially known as Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. But also we need to acknowledge the legacies of colonization. So this area is also subject to the Between the Lakes Treaty of 1793. And it offers us an opportunity when we say these things aloud to remember and recognize that we have a real shared responsibility to make good of our time on this planet and to treat the planet and all of its peoples with care and respect, and to work together towards building a more just and equitable world for everyone on behalf of our ancestors and in service of our descendants. That is today's land acknowledgement, and I encourage you all to drop an acknowledgement in the chat if you feel so inclined. Once I've stopped talking, I'll put a little tool in there in case you are unfamiliar with the traditional stewards of the land that you find yourself upon, who are likely still there, and then you can find it on this little tool. All right, this webinar will be recorded. It is currently being recorded, and it will be available for viewing in about 72 hours on the Folk Alliance YouTube channel. We'll also have a captioned script available there for you to read through, should that be of use to you. We hope that you will share your thoughts and your observations in the chat. If you have questions, you're of course welcome to put them in the chat, but maybe a better place to put them would be in the Q&A, and you can find the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen on the toolbar. If you're joining us from a phone or iPad, you might be having a hard time finding the Q&A, then just drop it in the chat and I'll put it over there for you. But try to keep those separate. It makes it easier for our moderator to keep track of the questions if they're in the Q&A box. Now, without further ado, it is my great pleasure to introduce today's fabuloso lineup of panelists. We are joined by Nat Jay, Jackie Gage, Stacey Bedford, and the inimitable, my friend, and hopefully one day yours. To moderate today's discussion, please put your virtual hands together for Shakura S'Aida.
Thank you, Tressa. We are definitely friends. Hello, everyone. My name is Shakura S'Aida, and I live in Toronto, and I am very, very happy to be here. Our topic for today is online revenue generating for musicians, and I am going to give you your agenda for today. I'm very excited to learn as much as everyone else about this because it's not something that I know a lot about. But I do know it's something that I need to know more about in order to become a more successful musician and business person. So I hope everyone has their pen and paper in hand. I'm a pen and paper kind of chick. So, you know, I hope that everyone has their pen and paper in hand or their phone with their notes app open so they can take lots of notes. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, as Tressa said, and I'll read them out to everyone. So our agenda for today is 1, know your rights and your royalties. Make the most of your website, how to engage your fans directly, and how to understand sync licensing. All right. So we are just going to start. Okay, we're just going to start right from the top. Now, Nat or Jackie, I am a musician 40 years in this business, and my website hasn't been updated in the past year and a half due to the pandemic. How do I start?
Jackie, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. That's a really good question. I remember when I first started building my website, the advice that I had been given from some of my peers and mentors was just to find the people whose music you resonate the most with, like artists who people compare you to, and basically emulate what they're doing with their site, because they have these large marketing teams who strategically have placed, what does this header look like? Or what about this section? And so I took that just completely to heart. Every few months, I'll be looking at the people who I admire and the work that they have online, and just kind of see what they're doing, and basically emulate a lot of the work that they're doing. So depending on who that is for you or the people who are viewing this panel right now, that's the way that I first got started, and it was so helpful.
I think it's important to know too that just because you're not out there performing doesn't mean that you don't have news for your fans. Your fans want to get to know, they want to hear you play music, but they also want to get to know you and who you are. So I have my website hosted on Bandzoogle as well, and it's super easy for me to change stuff up and add different categories and stuff like that. So I can update people about, what I've been up to. I did this week. I told them I was coming on this panel and what I've been working on behind the scenes that maybe they don't know about. You can, take little videos, and sometimes they like to know that you're making banana bread or something like that. It's all part of building your brand and having people understand who you are and what you stand for, and what you want to put out into the world besides just your music, but your person as well.
Thank you for that. Thank you. What copyrights are associated with your music, Jackie?
You're asking the copyrights associated with my music?
Yes.
Well, I guess it's a range of different works. So I'm thinking now of a performing rights organization, and as a songwriter, I'm affiliated with ASCAP as a songwriter. And so I make sure that whenever I do a performance and there's a song that I'm performing that I've originally written, I'll make sure that I register that with them, so I can get paid for that, as well as sound exchange for the different either albums or singles that are available on digital platforms, which I know we were talking about this earlier too, this idea of neighboring rights and other organizations that Nat, you were mentioning, but yeah, I don't know if you want to take it away.
Sure. I mean, yeah, because the basic sort of idea is that there are certain copyrights associated with your music. And there's two main ones that are associated with your music. There's the master rights and the publishing rights. And each one of those sets of rights generates different kinds of royalties. So the more you can understand about who owns those rights, how the splits are with your collaborators, then that's sort of the first step. And then, figuring out what are the different royalties generated from those different sets of rights. And then once you've kind of figured out those things, then the next thing is to move on to what organizations do you need to sign up with or collaborate with in order to receive those different sets of royalties. And it will depending on which country you live in. It's different for me and for Jackie, because Jackie's in the States, I'm in Canada. So there are different organizations that we have to connect with. But yeah, so first it's just understanding the master rights and the publishing rights, who owns those, what the split is, and then figuring out what are those different royalties associated with the different rights, and then figuring out who it is that you need to sign up with so that you can get your hands on that money.
I thank you very much for that. One of the things that surprised me, and I only found out about this a few years ago, was that there are also performance royalties. It was something that I didn't know about. And I have been singing on different people's albums for a very, very long time, and even doing backups and stuff, and didn't realize that I was legally able to collect royalties on that as well. Is that something that you think is worth people looking into if they're a musician, they've been playing on different things? Or
Absolutely. And like I said, there's different kinds of royalties. So I think the kind that you're talking about is something kind of called neighboring rights royalties, where which goes to the performers that are on the recordings. So whether it's session musicians or a backup singer or something like that. And this is something that's available. I don't believe it's actually available in the States necessarily, but it is available in Canada and lots of other countries around the world. I think in the US, you can check in with Sound Exchange because maybe they collect something similar. But there's other kinds of, there are other kind of public performance royalties. So anytime your music gets performed live, whether it's, like an actual live performance or performed in public through your song is placed on in a film or a TV show, or it's on the radio. There are public performance royalties that go to the owners of the publishing rights, and that's what's distributed through your performing rights organization. So here in Canada, it's SOCAN. In the States, it'd be like ASCAP or BMI. In the UK, it'd be PRS. I think in Australia, it's APRA or something like that. So each country has their own different PRO, we call them, performing rights organization, that collects those royalties from the public performance of your work.
thank you very much for that. Thank you. Jackie, rights administration is very, very time consuming and sometimes a little confusing as well. Can you offer any kind of advice for self-managed artists on creating a really good workflow?
Well, the one thing that I like to do is I have an assistant. She helps me with a lot of my work so I can focus more on the creative aspects. I mean, I have a lawyer that I work with as well, and just different people to help with the flow of everything I need. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. And, it's a really complicated thing. I mean, even I was just like doing some reading again this morning to remind myself, because it's such a complicated topic. I went to a course a couple of years ago that was put on by the local industry association, and a lawyer ran it, and it took like a couple of hours. So to discuss all of the different royalties and how to get them and things like that. So it's a very complicated thing. So you kind of just have to tackle it sort of one little bit of information at a time, without trying to take it all in. It might be a while until you start collecting all of them, but the first one that people usually start with is registering with their performing rights organization to start collecting those kinds of royalties. And try do some reading on it. I found some great reading online this morning that really helped me sort of remember a few things, but it can be overwhelming. So just take it sort of one set of royalties at a time, and don't try to sort of get too far ahead of yourself. Spreadsheets, lots of spreadsheets too.
I mean, a lot of musicians are really, especially over the past year, really trying to find different revenue avenues for themselves. And this might be something that they might not have done. So if you say to register first, what would be your top three? So registering would be one of the top ones. What are the other top two that you would say to do?
So register with your PRO for your publishing rights. This is kind of the very top one, I would say, because you can actually get, like when you do a live performance, you can actually get paid extra for it from your PRO. So each time you play a show, usually the PRO has certain criteria, like SOCAN says it has to be like a minimum $6 cover. And then all you do is upload your set list to their website, and then there's a certain fee associated with that show that they'll pay out to you and whoever other performer performed that night if they submit it. If they didn't submit it, then the whole lot goes to you, which is great. And it's not tons, but it's like an extra, I can't remember how much, like $60 or $100 that gets to you for performing your works publicly. That's also how you get paid your royalties if you get a placement in film or TV. So that's, you can't really get your music placed until you have registered your songs. And that's how you get your royalties in the end. But also any other kind of public performance like radio and that kind of thing, that's going to be the main source of your royalties as an artist, will be through the publishing. And then after that, it's things related to the master rights. And that's where you would want to register with an organization that collects neighboring rights if you're in certain countries, with Sound Exchange to collect things like digital royalties. But I would say that if you're going to do one thing today, it would be to sign up with your performing rights organization.
All right, Jackie, do you have anything to add to that before we move on to the next topic?
Yeah, what Jennifer put in the chat actually is really, really important too. When you do register with the PRO, just make sure that if you don't have a publishing deal, it would be really, really wise to register both as a songwriter and as a publisher. That way you can be the administrator of your performing rights that would be sent to your publisher, and that way you're having both sides of the pie. I don't know if you've seen those graphs, for instance, when you write a song and it's like one half will be associated with the songwriter and the other half associated with the publisher. So if you register as both, you're able to have that complete financial benefit of the song that you've written. So
And
yes.
Just to add to that, that can vary per country as well, because that is 100% true what Jackie just said. But in Canada, SOCAN doesn't require you to have a publisher. You can collect the full thing as the songwriter. So that can get a bit confusing as well.
But thank you, Jennifer, for
Yeah,
mentioning
good.
that. I want to say thank you.
Oh yeah, let me clarify too. I'm recognizing like I am in the United States. So a lot of the perspectives that I have about this is going to be based on being a US artist. So in case anyone is not in the United States who's watching, like of course, Canada, UK, just anywhere else in the world, this will just be my perspective from the States.
Thank you very much for saying that. Thank you. All right, Stacey, thank you so much for being patient, and we're going to get to you right now. All right, so we want to make the most of our website. There are multiple ways that artists can use their website to generate income. Can you walk us through some of the most effective? And let's just pretend you're speaking to me, Stacey. Okay, I know there's other people listening, but this is what I need the most help with. So please go ahead.
Great. Well, I think I've been asked to talk about how to generate income in a pandemic world many times this year, and the situation is evolving so much. As an artist, generating income in a pandemic world, it's not as straightforward as record, release, tour. And it's a terrible situation. It's not only forced artists out of a traditional income generating method that they are probably comfortable with, but it's also encouraged tech companies like Bandzoogle to reevaluate our whole tool set and how we can best help artists generate revenue in this new environment that we're all part of. Artists who are doing really well right now, they're really leveraging the tools that they have available to engage with their fans online. And they're also making sure to diversify their offering. So I think as musicians, we're all in a pretty unique position that we possess this huge set of skills that can be leveraged in many different ways. So some artists who are previously making money by touring, they've pivoted to offer everything from virtual music lessons to at-home session work to songwriting workshops. They've been exploring some ways to generate income that might not have been, they might not have been under any other circumstances. And the cool thing about this is that now they're going to have this huge set of tools that they can use for the rest of their career. So it's forced people out of their comfort zone, but it's also given them some new strategies. When the pandemic hit, one of the first new tools that we released at Bandzoogle was virtual ticket sales. And this gives you the ability to embed live streaming right into your website through Crowdcast, Vimeo, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, when the event's taking place. So you could sell tickets for virtual events. And then we added a tip jar feature. And the cool thing about this was that we noticed really quickly that artists who were asking for tips over fixed ticket sale prices were making almost double the revenue per seat. So I don't think this necessarily means that tips are a better choice, but I think it means that artists are really undervaluing their art and their work. So it really showed to me that there's a huge importance in testing out different pricing strategies on your website. And this could even be extended to things like digital music sales. So of course you can set a fixed price for your music, but there's also a way to pay what you can, like offer tracks as pay what you can. And I know most people feel that streaming has taken over, but in the first, I think 6 months of the pandemic alone, Bandzoogle members sold almost $500,000 just in digital sales, like music. So it's still important to make that kind of material available on your website in that format. The biggest generator of income for our customers right now is setting up an online merch table. You can sell anything from stickers, t-shirts, masks. You can sell custom products that are on brand. Like we have this one artist who is selling hand crocheted granny squares, and you can purchase them in multiples and then stitch them together. And this is part of one of their crowdfunding initiatives. We have people selling custom coloring books to go along with their albums, special tea blends that match the feel of their album. There's even this artist selling custom pillowcases to go along with the track that they had named Snooze. So artists are getting really creative, and that's working really well right now. We added a bundle feature just in June, and since June, our artists have sold almost 1,000 bundles, and that's just in 2 months. So some examples of those are bundles where you could sell pre-recorded video files, like course bundles. You could also sell a combination of sheet music album packages. Another example would be like lessons with ebooks and video resources, show packages, volume multiples. Again, people are getting really creative, and it's effective. It's generating a lot of revenue for our customers. And of course, we added a print on demand integration back in February, and Bandzoogle members have sold just under 5,000 orders, printful orders, and that's all merch. So I would say we offer this really robust commission-free subscription feature also, which was not as popular pre-pandemic. It allows you to sell tiered subscriptions to fans, and there's also crowdfunding options. We launched it in about 2016, but when the pandemic hit, our member subscription sales really picked up. I think fans were bored at home. They're looking for ways to be entertained and connect with their favorite artists. And I think we're in a time where fans understand more than ever the importance of supporting their favorite artists, buying local. And this has really been reflected in the growth of direct to fan sales, especially at Bandzoogle. And just to bring it all home, like to give you context, that Bandzoogle members have sold $82 million in commission-free music, merch, tickets, subscriptions since we started recording sales in 2010. But just since March 2019, that's been $20 million in sales. So I'd say that it's really possible to connect with your fans directly if you're making a wide range of offering and you're getting creative with that.
Thank you for that. Thank you. And this, I mean, you gave so many really great examples. For somebody who's just starting out, and again, look at me, but for someone who's just starting out, what is one first step, one course of action that you know will be effective right off the bat? You have to do one thing to bring your website and your music together.
So I know that I try to cram a lot of information into my answers, but I would say the first step is really to create a home base. This can help you in many ways going forward, but the first step is to really create that home base so that you can control your fan experience. You can build a fan list that you own, and then you can monetize those visits. And you can also start to gather data that will help you make informed decisions later. So just start off with that home base, gather some analytics, and you don't have to think about that all right now, but just start somewhere. You should absolutely maintain a presence on social media, but your goal should always be to drive the traffic back to your website, capture contact information, and then you can start relationship building. So I would say, especially if you're just starting out, when you're thinking about content for your website, that home base, I would say just get something out there and make it as low investment as possible. This means singles over albums. You should post, look at data, gather feedback, and do more of what's working for you. Just always think about your music as a business with the goal to delight your fans, and you're going to do pretty good.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. We have a question from Jennifer Cutting. It is, could Stacey tell us a tiny bit more about Bandzoogle's crowdfunding website option?
Yeah, so actually crowdfunding is a tool that we've always offered we've always offered the components to do crowdfunding from your Bandzoogle website. We do SoundScan reporting, and you can set up pre-orders on Bandzoogle. It's pretty straightforward. You can add releases and then schedule when those will be sent out. Combined with our new bundles option, it's quite powerful. We also offer page templates to make it easy. Bandzoogle originally started out because the founder of Bandzoogle, he worked at a record label and he managed all of the websites on the label, and he needed to create this tool where you didn't have to know anything about coding and design to be able to maintain your online presence. So we like to think our original saying was, so easy your drummer can do it. And we've maintained that. So it's pretty simple to set up a crowdfunding campaign on Bandzoogle.
I have to say, I can use the features on Bandzoogle, and if I can do it, anyone can do it.
And you're not a drummer. I just want to say that.
I'm not even a drummer, and I can still do it.
You know, I have to put in a good word for Bandzoogle as well. I started using their platform around 2012, because around that time, people were using more cell phones and Bandzoogle was mobile optimized. And even now you can see the difference in that versus sites like Wix, where it just looks so much cleaner on the different devices that you're using. And that's so important when people want to have easy and quick access to information. So it's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for those, as Tressa put it, love fest, Bandzoogle love fest. So here's the thing, you're speaking a lot about, you know, how to get people to your website. What's the best way of capturing email address or contact information for people? And also, what is the difference between a hard sell and a soft sell? What will drive people away as opposed to pulling them in and making them want to be involved in your career and your music?
Well, in music, a hard sell is usually something associated with, it's usually associated with tactics that are used for temporary or urgent or limited time offers, like a live stream event or a show or a crowdfunding campaign. So something that's finite. It's when the goal is to get the visitor or the fan to make an immediate purchase. An example of how to do that on your website might be to make a call to action in your header section that's loud right at the top, asking visitors to buy a ticket or a limited edition color vinyl or something like that. It's when you need to fund an album and you've booked your studio time. This is when you need people to take action. It's usually a relationship that involves a recommendation to your fan without really an understanding of what they need. It's more selfish. A soft sell, on the other hand, it's the long game. It's when you're selling something and you have a lot of over an extended period of time, or when there's no deadline in sight. So this is when you want to build a relationship over time and you want to make suggestions in a less direct way to your visitors or your fans. So think about like a link to sign up to your mailing list, for example. Which you might later use for a campaign for a hard sell, or to help build, it might be a newsletter that helps build your image or your fans' opinion about who you are as an artist. Soft sell is more about listening to your fans instead of telling them what to do. So the way that you would build, to answer your first question, the way that you would build your mailing list, there's so many strategies, and I could talk about this for a very long time, and I have a tendency to talk a lot. I would recommend visiting the Bandzoogle blog. There's free resources on how to do this, but for sure, it's going to be part of what we call a hubs and spokes strategy, where you're using all of the social media tools available to you, and you're driving that traffic to your website, and you're making sure there's a clear call to action on your website. And a soft sell call to action would be sign up for a newsletter for promotions or events or that sort of thing.
Thank you so much for all of that. That's a lot of, that helps a lot. Thank you. Jackie, let's move on to the next topic, engaging fans directly. And I don't mean going to their house and cooking them dinner.
That sounds like fun too.
I'm telling you, I would love that. I would absolutely love that. But let's talk about crowdfunding versus subscription-based patronage. Is it either or? And what are the pros and cons of each?
You know, if it's okay, I might dive into just a few different areas in terms of engaging your fans directly. So
Please, go ahead,
I
shoot.
mentioned, oh, sorry, what did you say? I didn't mean
Go
to.
ahead, shoe your boots. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I mentioned earlier that I've been using Bandzoogle services for years, and this was even when I wasn't fully sure how to be like a professional singer / artist and make my living from music. This is when I was just kind of in college, just having fun tinkering with music. So when I was first starting, kind of similar to what you were talking about with mailing lists earlier, Stacey, I would have an email sign up at shows, of course. So every performance that I had, I would have that list there and be like, come sign up for my mailing list. From that moment until now, I mean, I have hundreds, I think I have maybe 600 email subscribers that I did end up deleting a few because at a certain point when Google changed, I'm sorry, rambling for a moment, but when people like Gmail changed some of their different email services and you start going into the promotional folders, people aren't really opening your content. So it's like all of these different things. But anyways, so I started at that younger space, just like with my email list. As things have continued, I've been working with a lot of different agencies, and I really took myself as a singer more seriously to understand like how to be an artist in this world. How can I give my original music, or how can I help others with their art? So that manifested itself in a few different ways. I mean, there were a lot of agents that I would work with to do private events or tours with, or recommend me to open for other artists. And when we found ourselves with the pandemic first starting, some of the agents actually were able to pivot a little bit into an online world, which then resulted in getting offers for virtual events. So right when the pandemic hit, it was this pivot from like, I'm going to be on a stage with others, to then offering my services for different companies or different parties that people were having, or different birthdays and those kind of personal events. With that, the offerings that you give at a live show also changed as well. For instance, you might have your physical merch table at your show, but that then translated it into, well, how can I give virtually to people who are part of virtual shows? So then that started to look like making Spotify playlists and doing promotional giveaways where you can mail them little packages and things that are fun. Or people who were part of these events were like, wow, I love your music. How can I find you? And it's easy to say like, hey, well, you know, if you'd like, here's a link to my email list. If you want to keep in touch, that's really the best way, because I'm not the biggest fan of social media. I've never really been the best at posting what's going on. So that's been really helpful to engage with them. At the same time, I was looking for other ways to also give value to people in this online world. And another area that Stacey mentioned was crowdfunding and subscriptions. And I remember meeting someone from Patreon at a conference years ago, and he was like, here's my card, let's do this. And I didn't fully understand the value of that service at the time. I was still focused on live performances. Where now with Bandzoogle, I started looking at some of my favorite artists and seeing how they were able to use these different tools. And I was able to create a subscription service that was based on my favorite things. Like, I'm all about being out in nature and like smelling the air, and even similar to the acknowledgements that Teresa had earlier, just the idea of being present in the land and in nature. So I wanted to share that love with people who now can subscribe to my monthly fan club. And it's been so helpful for me because, again, being focused on live shows, I wasn't doing things like creating video content or doing more online events. It wasn't top of mind. So now I've been able to start offering more items for people in the fan club who might care about these different videos that asked me about years ago that I'd never created. So it's been a way to still, retain some income and make some monthly income, which has been amazing during this time, as well as be able to stick to my artistry. And then a couple other things that have been helpful too. I know that people talk about all kinds of like different song offerings. So whether it be lessons or video content. For me, I started learning about how to create custom songs for people because, again, I've been writing for a really long time, and I had recently just learned like a really nice way to share musical value with others in our music community who probably, even the people viewing this, will love your art but don't know the best way to support you and your artistry right now. And that's been extremely helpful, anywhere from just, a quick little encouraging thinking of you message that can be, I don't know, anywhere for a few $100s to full-on consultations of like custom songs for organizations that can be, it's been like thousands and thousands of dollars. And with that process, oh, here comes my cat. Hi, Cha-Cha. And with that process, just seeing that the value that you have for your music is perceived by others. And so really offering like, this is what I do, but how was this of value to you, also helps set a price point for that offering for me. So these little things have been really helpful during this time. The virtual performances and events, custom song creations, the subscription and fan club, and then the slow reemergence into like live, either private events or actual concerts. And I'm talking a lot, but which I know I just kind of regurgitated all these things, but that's what's been helping me during this time. And I don't know if I can be of help to anyone else on this call, but please feel free to reach out because there's a lot of different minutia in all of that, but it's all been really helpful.
So let's talk about, you mentioned, all these things bring in a certain amount of money. Let's talk about tip jars. And Stacey mentioned this, that what they've learned is that as artists, we sometimes undervalue ourselves, or a lot of the artists have undervalued themselves. How do you decide what your price point is? And especially with tip jars, do you find that they're useful? Do you find that it's better if you just raise the price of whatever you're selling at that point? What have you found the best thing to do?
So I know that I first started reaching out, trying tip jars from Bandzoogle around when the pandemic first hit, and there were some organizations who had reached out to do performances, like virtual performances. Like San Jose Jazz had a series that they were creating every Thursday, and during that live stream, there were people who were like, "How can we donate to this?" And even the marketing director of San Jose Jazz was like, "Can I have your Venmo or your PayPal for people to contact you?" And so because of that, I first tried, I don't know if you can hear my cat, sorry. Okay. But because of that, I was able to first try out the tip jar tool. I haven't used it to its full capacity, but I do know that for some of those live performances, it's so helpful to be like, hey, everyone, while I'm on the stream, to say, here's my tip jar. If you would like to donate in any way, this is the best way that you can do so. And it makes it so easy. Actually, I can just put this in the chat. I think I made a page called Donate, where it has a few different ways to help support the music that people are listening to in real time. Yeah.
And you found that that's the most helpful thing for you in terms of the tip jars?
For tip jars, just making sure that whatever way I'm able to give donations, that it's just easy for people to access. Like for instance, if someone's going to watch a performance on their screen of their computer, then it's easy to then take their phone and then, maybe type something in and donate in that way. If someone's watching something from their phone, then it's more difficult to have things that are clickable for others to engage with. So just trying to be mindful of the easiest ways for people to like click to another place, which is something top of mind for any times that you decide.
Thank you. Nat, how have you found it? Do you find you want to raise prices for performances, or do you want to use a tip jar? Which have you found works better for you?
I'll be honest, I have not been doing virtual performances. So I can't really answer that question. What I have seen both from many of my friends and colleagues who have been doing virtual performances, I have found that a lot of them have set prices for tickets and they've done quite well with it. Or adding a tip jar with a recommended minimum is often a good idea too, because then people are, even if they are giving less, that's okay. But there's it sort of sets a standard for it. And then it often also encourages people to just be generous as well on top of that. If they want to pay you more, they can. So that's always a good thing too.
Thank you, Nat. Okay, so everybody's got all these different ideas about what's going to be the most creative output, and what's going to directly give the best revenue. But what have you found, Nat, that brings the best revenue back in?
For me, for actually most of my career, whether it's been, during COVID or not, it's been sync licensing my music to film and TV. This is something that I've been luckily really successful at doing from the comfort of my own home, mainly. I did perform quite a bit for many years and I really enjoyed it, but I toured a little bit, but I've never been like a huge touring musician. So for me, when COVID hit, it wasn't that big of a change in my lifestyle because I'm a homebody. I prefer to be at home, and so I still did sync licensing. I could still do it from home. It's something that you pitch from home, you send files from home, you can do it from wherever you are in the world. And so for me, it was a good balance of being able to be at home, but still be able to be proactive with my music and have good results as far as income and exposure to international audiences as well.
Thank you, Nat. Jackie, same question.
I mean, truly all those different streams have been what's helpful for me. I was going from a lot of live performances, like that was my primary source of income. And so going from that to then virtual performances, private virtual events, then to writing songs and subscriptions for my fans and friends. Those have been the ways that I've navigated during this time.
Okay, thank you. I have another question. Just as artists, one of the things that you get worried about is watering down your brand, especially during this time when everybody's online, everybody's doing streaming, everybody's doing concert performances. What would you say to that? Do you feel that being online, streaming and doing performances, do you feel that it waters down your brand, or do you feel that it actually can help to elevate you in a different way? I'll take Stacey. Stacey, I feel like you really want to answer this. Go for it.
Yeah, well, I think as a music consumer, I would say that it's definitely possible to exhaust your fan base with live streams, but I don't think that means that you shouldn't do it. I think that you need to this is a time to leverage your relationships, and that's just not just your relationships with other artists, but your relationships with venues. Everybody is struggling right now, and everybody has their own unique fan base. So definitely, I would say you're going to see diminishing returns on viewers and sales and tips if you keep playing your same finite set list to the same social media group every week. But organize a show with a band that plays similar music. It doesn't even have to be in your area. You can reach out to other artists in other locations. And this is an example where your website data can help you, because you might have visitors from cities that you didn't realize that were part of your fan base. So find artists that are in those areas that you can collaborate with, or that you could do social media takeovers, or that you could do live stream shows alongside. And that gives you exposure to other fan bases. So it would definitely help with that. I don't think that you can necessarily dilute your brand, but your fans will definitely appreciate new content, and it's a great way for music discovery for other music consumers too.
Thank you so much. And Jackie or Nat, do either of you have anything to add to that?
Sorry, Shakura, I was typing when you asked the question. Can you repeat the question? I feel like a bad student in the back of the class right now.
One of the things I think a lot of people were worried about, a lot of musicians were worried about, or there is this concern about watering down your brand, you know, being online too much, doing too much streaming, having, you know, whether it's going to make people, get people fatigue, you know, when it comes to being an artist, you know, or make them not want to see you live. Like, can you speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think what Stacey was talking about is true, that you just want to add some variety to what it is that you're offering your fans. But this is kind of something that I think is advice not just during this time. I think that it's highlighted. I think this whole COVID time has really highlighted that people do need to have other sources of income than just recording, you know, releasing music and performing. And I think it's just highlighted that, but I don't think that that's just something during this time. I think that's something that needs to be taken, you know, beyond COVID, and artists need to understand that there are many pieces to the pie, whether it's COVID time or not, and that you need to be able to access all those things. So if you're focused on learning those different areas of income streams that can come in from your music, then you'll understand the different kind of variety that you can offer as an artist. So maybe it's not just performances, maybe it is developing a merchandise line, maybe it is creating subscription content, you know, just offering those different kinds of content for your audience, but also creating those different income streams. And if you're focused on creating those different kind of income streams, then you'll have different content to promote to your fans as well.
Thank you, Nat. Anything to add to that, Jackie?
You know, I understand that as artists we're in this area where everyone's like, you are a brand and your purpose is to create content. Like even music is called content, and even like what you care about is called content. Everything is content. And I know I mentioned earlier how much I just detest this idea of social media and like branding yourself into certain spaces. So I know that I'm coming at this this response with a little bit of bias from that, but I recognize also what Stacey was saying. Have some variety in what you want to share with others, but being authentic to who you are is already the reason that people are inspired to listen to you. So in terms of like discovering, I guess, your brand or who you are, just the more that you're in touch with yourself, the easier it is to give yourself to others around you. It would almost be a disservice if anyone on this call is like, I'm going to, you know, lose all of my soul in something and just focus on like this one person. Because if you're not happy within your own artistry and your own self, that's going to resonate in everything that you touch and everything that you do. So I just want to make sure that everyone knows how important it is and how vital it is that you stay honest to yourself in the whole process of your musicianship.
Thank you, Jackie. And we will be going to your meditation class shortly after this section. You are amazing. Thank you. All right. So we've got a question from Sam. He wants to know any insights about using tip rewards. Are they worth it? I have no idea what tip rewards are. Do any of you have any idea what tip rewards are?
Maybe if you can clarify, Sam, is that when you have a certain tip level and then it's like if you get a certain amount of tips from the general populace of tips for that time, you'll unlock a blank or blank?
Let's see if he answers. We will wait for him to clarify that because I'm not sure what that is. We'll wait for Sam to come back and clarify that, and we'll move on in the meantime. Can we move on to our next topic, ladies? Is that all right? All right. How about understanding sync licensing? This is a fun one. And I mean that completely facetiously. All right. So Nat, you run a course called Sync Basics. Can you give us the spark notes, our basic skeleton of what steps people need to follow in order to get started? And let's break it down to the real, don't start talking about big words here, Nat. Just go break it down to see Jane run, see Bob find an apple.
Well,
Like, oh, that's simplified.
this is why I teach Sync Basics. And Sync Basics is a course series that I'm developing, 3-course series that will be launching this fall, actually. The first course is up now, if anyone wants to check that out. And we really do start from the very beginning in that course. And the reason that I started teaching this course, well, basically, years ago, I was doing really well with getting my music licensed to film and TV, and my artist friends kept coming up to me and saying, or just generally random artists kept coming up to me or emailing me or whatever it was and asking, how are you doing this? And it's not a short answer. And so I wasn't really able to sort of sum it up in a sentence or two. And then I started developing kind of a seminar that people would come in person, and I would sort of run them through all of the different parts of getting your music placed. And then in the past year, I've been able to launch my my educational platform called Scratch for Music, which focuses on empowering artists to DIY. And so it's information that's coming from an artist. I know a lot of education in the industry tends to be kind of top down. So it's coming from the industry professionals telling artists what to do. And the focus of my site is really more about artists helping artists from their own experience and knowledge. And so the Sync Basics course series is kind of the start of all of it. And it really does walk people through from the very beginning to getting the placement. And so I think the first thing that is really important to understand is what exactly is sync licensing, because I think that a lot of people actually don't know what it is. Sync licensing, music licensing, sync, it's all the same thing. And there's a misconception that when artists get music placed in a production that they're selling the music, but they're not selling the music. They are just giving permission. It's the copyright holders, whoever owns the copyright, they're giving permission to the production to legally use their piece of music in the production, in the film or the TV show or the advertisement. So they're just allowing them to use their music, and there's a fee associated with that. So that's what we call music licensing. We're licensing the music. We're not selling it. We're just giving them permission to use it. So that's kind of the first thing that I talk about. And the next thing is sort of understanding the pathway of how does it get from you into the production. And the music comes from sort of a variety of sources. It can come from directly from the artist, like me, like you. It can come from a label, a publisher, a manager, a sync agent, but it all goes to one person, and that's the music supervisor. And the music supervisor handles all the administration behind securing all of the rights and anything to do with the administration behind using music legally in the production. And so they act as kind of a go-between between the music industry and the production. So those are the first kind of things to understand. And then in my seminar, I had sort of 3 sections, and that's what I've broken my 3 courses down to. And the first one is where we talk about preparing to pitch. So I know that everyone always wants to get straight to the stage where they're pitching their music to music supervisors. But unless you prepare your music properly, then you're going to fail at that pitching part and at the placement part. So it's the most important course, in my opinion. It's the most important phase, is preparing your music properly. So in this one, like, we talk about how to optimize your songs for sync opportunities, understanding the copyrights behind your music and how they're split. What else? We talk about having certain alternate recordings ready and what format to have your music in, and how to set up an online catalog. And then in the second course, the perfect pitch, we talk about, this is where we talk about the music supervisor and understanding more about what they do. And I think that's really important for artists to really have an understanding of what the music supervisor's role is and what their workflow is, so that we can fit into it. It's our job as indie artists pitching music to be as easy to work with as possible. And so the more we understand about their role and their workflow, then the more we can understand about what we need to do as well. And then finally, the placement pro, we look at what it actually looks like to get a placement. How do you get paid? What are the two different stages of getting paid for sync licensing? And we look at actual samples of licenses. It's like a big, overwhelming, full of legal jargon kind of document that can be really overwhelming for an artist. So we break that down, and we look at the important parts and understanding what they mean, so that, when artists aren't, when artists get their first placement, it's not the first time they've seen one of these, and they can feel a bit more confident. They're familiar with that terminology and stuff. So it's not something that can be exactly broken down into Spark Notes, but hopefully, just understanding those first few things and understanding that there are a whole bunch of different areas to know about, that can be a good start for people if they're getting into sync licensing. But I would
Wow.
say, yeah, if they're going to start with one thing today, it's kind of understanding your copyrights and who owns them. That's the premise of everything that sync licensing is based on.
Thank you. I feel like we need a session just on sync licensing, like a master class. And I feel like I would be one of the first people to sign up, but probably not. I'd probably be on the door knocking, asking to get in. Thank you for that, though. I think that helps a lot. And again, we do have your contact info so that we can sign up for one of your classes and learn a lot more.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, find me on Instagram, because I'll be announcing when I'll be launching the courses. Like I said, the first one, the preparing to pitch, is available now, and then the second two will be the second and third one will be available later this fall. So I'll announce it all on Instagram.
Thank you so much, Nat. Thank you. I just want to throw back to Stacey for a moment. Do you have any, after listening to everything and joining in, do you have any last thoughts that you'd like to share with us?
I always do. I talk too much.
Well, we've got about 3 minutes. Stacey,
Okay.
break it down to 1 minute for me.
I would say you're probably already doing things as an artist that your fans would see value in being part of, whether that's part of your songwriting process or just being able to watch your band practice. So when it comes to monetizing and generating revenue, just be conscious of the fact that it doesn't always have to involve a lot of extra work. Sometimes it's just putting things that you do behind a paywall and then asking. And that's where things like subscription tiers come in handy. So it doesn't always have to be a slog or a big stressful situation where you have all of this recurring extra work to do. Monetizing your music business could be as simple as just putting up a tip jar or putting things that you do already behind a paywall.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm back.
Hi, Trista.
Hi, everybody. Shakura, thank you so much for moderating this panel today.
Well, thank you so much for producing it. Thank you.
Thank you to Jackie and Nat and Stacey. In particular, thank you to Stacey and the folks at Bandzoogle for sponsoring this webinar. Our webinars are free of charge for anyone in the world to attend, and we really appreciate your sponsorship of this. It does sound like we need a deep dive into sync licensing for artists. So Nat, check your inbox. I'll be emailing you. In the meantime, thank you everybody today. As I mentioned, these webinars are free of charge for folks across the world. If you'd like to support the work of Folk Alliance, you can do so by visiting us, folk.org/donate. On the folk.org site, you'll also find all of our past webinars, plus info about our upcoming conference in February, which will be happening online and in person, hybrid 2022. Here we come. In the meantime, stay safe and, more importantly, stay kind, everybody, and we'll see you next time. I think Jared's going to stop this. Thanks, Jared, for doing the tech. You're amazing.
I'm so sorry. I quit it on the other computer.
I think
We'll
there's
trim
still
this
people
off.
here. Everybody, this is the after party. Welcome to the after party of the webinar. Welcome.
Hey.
Still recording.
Hey, I noticed there's some questions here in the Q&A.